Lesson 4 has two parts. The first part is on place value and expanded notation, and make sure you've looked at your new rules and you have an expanded place value chart, and there's some information on how to write numbers between 21 and 99. So in part A here, on place value and expanded notation. Remember in lesson 3B, we finished up there with place value, and hopefully that was a little bit too easy for you. So here in part 4A, we're going to add more decimal places and all the way out to 100 trillions, and that's a pretty big number. So we'll do more problems like those in example 3.3, but asking a slightly different question. And answering this question will help you better understand expanded notation as well. So look at example 4.1 here. It says for each number shown, what is the numerical value of the 2, not just what place it's in. That's what we did in example 3.3, is look at just what the place value is. So here, to solve these problems, it might be helpful to you to have a place value chart, that one from your rules. We'll just put it right here on the screen. And if we look at A, what we want to do is basically do two steps here. And the value of a digit in a number, we can first use the place value chart to identify the digit's place value. And then we're going to add placeholder zeros to figure out the numerical value of the 2 itself. So here we look 1, 2, 3, 4 places over from the decimal point. And so we can see that if we look at our place value chart here, 1, 2, 3, there's the 2 is going to be right there in the thousands place. So we want to add placeholder zeros to determine its numerical value. So we're not just writing down what place it's in, that it's in the thousands place. We want to write what its value is. So if it's in the thousands place, then its value is 2,000, right? So that's what we're going for here. B, we take a look at that and we see a lot of zeros there. So again, we can use our place value chart and we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the 2 and the 4. So we're in the 10 millions place for the 4, but we want to know the value of the 2. The 2 is in the millions place. So we would write 2, and then to hold that place, we call it, where I have dashes written there in blue, we put zeros, placeholder zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that 2 has a numerical value of 2 million. C, that's a really long number there, but just quickly count the zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can do that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we have a 7, a 0, a 2. So 7 is in the trillions. That 0 is in the 10 trillions. The 2 is in the 100 trillions. So to write its numerical value, we put a 2. And then to hold that place, to show that place and truly show its numerical value, we have to have 0, 0. And then all of these spots here, these 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3 is 12 more zeros. So let's just do that. 1, 2, 3. We always put a comma between every 3 places, right? 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now we've shown the value of that 2. It's in the 200 trillions place. D, look at that one, 0.32. So we're going to the right of the decimal place there. So 1, 2 places. The 2 is in the hundredths place. And again, we use placeholder zeros to show its value. Its value is 2 hundredths. So we'd say 0.02. Note also how we included that 0 to the left of the decimal, this one right here. That's optional. You don't have to put that one. I mean, you could have written this answer 0.02. One reason it's included sometimes is because it's difficult to see that little decimal point. So when you have 0, 0 like that, just sometimes that grabs your attention a little bit better. Putting that 0 out front helps you from getting confused about what's going on there. Now, that example, that focused on one digit. Now, example 4.1, that focused on one digit in a number and writing its numerical value. And we use expanded notation if we want to write out the numerical values of all the digits in a number. So all you do is you put a plus sign between each value. And that helps you also see the unity and diversity of numbers and that is found in numbers. So remember in lesson 1 we talked about unity and diversity. That's an attribute of God. It's the idea that one thing can be many things, and that's true. And when applied to numbers, one number actually consists of many parts. We can separate those individual parts using expanded notation. So let's take a look at another example here. Remember, the main thing you write down is doing problems, doing these example problems, okay? Putting titles, putting subtitles down. You should have place value and expanded notation written above example 4.1 and 4.2 so you know what this is about. Key ideas, problem solving tips. So when we talked about using the place value chart to identify the digits place and then adding placeholder zeros, those are two key things you might want to consider or writing down if you didn't do that along with example 4.1. So here, writing in expanded notation. We can put the place value chart in here again just to help us. And we're working with a little bit smaller numbers here, so it's not quite as necessary. But if we look at 2,100, we know the 2 is in the thousands place. So we say 2,000 and then plus, where's that 1? That 1 is in the hundreds place, so its value is 100. And then we have two placeholder zeros, right? Here and here. So that's it. That's our expanded notation for A. Moving on to B, a little bit bigger number. We have a 3. You see that's in the 10,000s place. So that would be 3 followed by 1, comma, 2, 3, 4 placeholder zeros. So it's 30,000 plus 4,000, right? Because that 4 is in the thousands place, plus the 0. We don't do anything with the 0. You don't have to put 0 down or anything. You just move on to the 5. The 5 is in the tens place though, right? So that would have a value of 50. And then the 3. And that's it. That's the expanded notation for that. C and D are pretty small numbers, so I'm going to move this place value chart out of the way here, and we'll just continue on. C, you've got an 8 that's in the tens place, so its value is 80. And then you have an 8 in the ones place, so there's no placeholder zeros to add for a 1. And then D, a 3 and a 2. The 3 is in the tenths place, so its value is 0.3. And we already did this with the 2, right? For this, we want to know what its value was. Well, it's in the hundredths place. And so that's not going to change from example 4.1. It's still going to have a value of 0.02. Okay, well, let's move on to part B, reading and writing whole numbers. Now, think about it. If you see a nice car, and let's say that car cost $70,000, and you normally wouldn't say that that car costs 70,000 dollars. That's not how you'd say that, right? You'd say the car costs $70,000, and you wouldn't say the car costs $10,000 either, just because the 7 is in the 10,000s place, right? That's not how you'd say that. So $70,000 is how much the car costs. But why do we say it that way? Well, if you look back at your place value chart and notice how it's broken into groups of three, each group of three to the left of the decimal place anyways is separated by a comma. You don't do that to the right of the decimal place. You don't put commas to the right. Notice that to the left of the hundreds place, each group of three ends in the same word. So you see that how they all end in thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and then the next group is millions, 10 millions, 100 millions. And then you get your billions group, your trillions group, and so on. So when we see a number like 70,000, we say that the 70 is in the thousands group, which is why we say 70,000. If this was the number, 70,000 and a 100, that's what we'd say, 70,100. We wouldn't say or write 70,000 and 100. We'd just say 70,100. Like this. There's a comma here, separating the 70,000 the thousands places with the last three places there. We put a comma here when we write it. So either way, we put a comma in the same location. Notice that, whether we're writing it with words or with digits. So when you write a large number using words, it's important to include commas in the same place they appear in the number. Now, when we write numbers using words, and is only used for the decimal place. So when we have to write that decimal place, we use the word and to describe that. So that's an important thing. There's only one time when you write it using words that you would use the word and. Okay? So in our examples, we will write numbers using words instead of digits, and vice versa. We'll follow normal rules for this, ones you probably learned already. And one final note here before we get going with examples. Some values in the thousands have an alternative form. For example, the standard way to say or write 1,000 is this right here, 1,000. But sometimes you'll hear it written or said 1,000 or 1,100 for 1,100, 1,200 for 1,200, so on. And sometimes for those thousands numbers like that, like a 1,200, it's written without a comma. So you see that 12 and then 00 makes you think of 100, right? Just because 100 has two zeros on the end, right? You keep going, 900, 1,000, 1,100, and so on like that. So that's an alternative way to write some of those thousands numbers. So think about it. 10 $100 bills equals 1,000, right? So we'll practice writing these both the thousands way and the hundreds way. Okay, take a look at example 4.3. Write those using words. Use words to write each of those. So A, if you need to refer back to your place value chart, then open that up and take a look at it. I'm not going to keep showing that up here though. So we use words to write each number 527. So take a look at example 4.3. Use words to write each number. And we'll use the place value chart if you need it. So put that up on the screen there. And for A, we have 527. So if you really need to, write it in the place value chart. But I'm not going to do that here. 527, we would just say 500 20. We don't say and 20. The and is only reserved for the decimal place. 20. There is a hyphen. If you look at your rules, you put a hyphen here. 21 through 99, you put hyphens. 27. That's how we'd want to write that. B, it's a good idea to add commas first. So let's just write this out. 4, 2, and then let's go count how many zeros we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 zeros. Counting them just helps make sure you do this the right way. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. We know we need to put commas in between as well. That helps us group things out as well. So that 42 then is in the millions places, right? And so it's just 42, 40 hyphen 2 million. We don't do anything with all those zeros. We don't write all of those out. We don't say anything about those. See, we've got a lot of digits in here that are non-zero digits. So again, let's go ahead and write this down. 805. Now, this is some place that you can make a mistake a lot of times. Actually, I didn't mean to put a comma there just yet. 805, 900, 633, 218. One reason I removed that comma is because we don't start doing commas in groups of 3 from the left. Even though it's going to work out with this one, we don't do it that way because you can have an error. You start from the right. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, like that. Okay? And so then we see that 805 is in the billions places. So it's right in here. Let's go ahead and get that place value chart out of the way though and erase a couple things there. So 805 billion. So there's the first part. I just did that quickly. 805 billion. Notice it's not 805. A lot of times when you say it, you're like 805. But there's no and. Remember, the and is only with the decimal point. That's what that's for. So 805 billion. Once you pause the lesson, try to finish this, then you'd have a 900 million, a 633,000, then a 218. So there it is. Commas where there are commas in the numeral form. So 805 billion, comma, 900 million, comma, 630 hyphen 3, need a hyphen in there, 33,000, comma, 218. And that's it. Moving on to example 4, we want to think about those ways to write thousands. So write it the normal thousands way and also the hundreds way. So the thousands way, we see the 1 in the thousands place. We'd say 1,000 and then a comma. Since there's a comma there to separate those groups of 3, 1,000 comma 310. And so that's it, 310. Now, the hundreds way, we remove that comma and we just think of it as this 1310 and we look at that. That's 13, right? 1300. $1,300 bills would be 1,300, right? 1,310. That's the hundreds way. So put a H with a circle there. This is the thousands way. So put a capital T with a circle there to represent the thousands way. So those two different ways to write a number like that. Let's do one more. Example 4.5, use digits to write each number. Now, normally students prefer this type of an example because you don't have so many things to write down. So let's go ahead and start with A, 3,017,000. Let's just put that place value chart up real quick again. Think about that millions place. And so it says there 3 million, comma, So we know there's a comma. We look at the place value chart and we see a comma right after the millions place. The 3 is in the millions place, comma. But then there's nothing in the thousands places, the 3,000s places that there are. And we don't have another comma. It doesn't say 3 million, comma, 17. Even though when we look at the place value chart, there's 2 commas between 3 million and 17. So, I mean, that'd be kind of weird to write 2 commas down, right? So you just have to know that there's nothing in the thousands place, but you put placeholder zeros there for that. Keep going, comma, 17. There's nothing in the hundreds place, and then 17. 3,017,000. That's how that is written. B, 24,555. So 24,000, we're in the thousands places there, and then there's a comma. And so with the numeral form, we put a comma, just like there is in the place value chart, just like there is in the words to separate those groups of 3 places out. 24,000, 555. That would just be 5, 5, 5. C, 87 billion. It's good to read this out first. 87 billion, comma, 269 million, comma, 733,000, comma, 900. So we're doing something in 4 different groups of 3 places, right? Starting with 87 billion, so we just say 87, comma, 269 million, so 269, comma, 733,000, 733, comma, 900, 900. That 9 is in the hundreds place. And that's it. You know, sometimes a bigger number like that is easier than a smaller one like 3,017,000 because, you know, in 3,017,000 you have to think more about all of these placeholder zeros and what you're doing with all of that and making sure and including those the right way. So use that place value chart there to help you as well. Okay, well that's all for lesson 4.